Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Video. So this is a new series that I am going to be doing for every single Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime, and it is the 10 Strongest Duelists series. In this video, I am going to be giving and basically ranking my thoughts on who the strongest duelists in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters are. Now, I've decided to rank these duelists based on where they were at top strength. I gave this a lot of thought, and I wanted to do this rather than where they were when the show ended, because looking at a character like Maximilian Pegasus, well, he's obviously a much stronger duelist when he has the Millennium Eye in Duelist Kingdom versus where he was when Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters came to an end. So we are going to be ranking all of these duelists based on how strong they were at full strength. I'm sure there will be a lot of debate to this down below in the comments, and with that being said, let's just get right into it. I hope you all enjoy, and let me know your thoughts on these rankings and how you would rank the strongest duelists in the show down below in the comments. Number 10, Mai Valentine. So I know I clown on Mai quite a bit because even though she was written or built up to be this really strong duelist, she really never won. Almost all of her duels in the beginning storylines of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters were off screen, and I always felt like there was a lot left to be desired with her character. That being said, she was a character that really got enhanced from that Season 4 filler arc in Doma. I would argue that she's one of the only anime characters that I actually liked their anime arc more than their manga arc in comparison to the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters manga. And at the end of the day, I feel like Mai became a really strong and formidable duelist when she took on the powers of the Seal of Orichalcos. Now, of course, you could argue that the Seal of Orichalcos is where she got a lot of her dueling strength from in that Doma arc, which is totally fair, but let's be honest, there were a lot of duelists in the original Yu-Gi-Oh! That used items that definitely increased their dueling ability and dueling power, and I feel like Mai getting a really big win against Joey Wheeler in that Doma arc. I know Joey was exhausted, but still, it was a very impressive win, and she just sneaks onto the list for me here for the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Show. Number 9, Zigfried von Schroeder. So this is one that I don't know if a lot of people would honestly have on their short list for the strongest duelists in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Granted, we only saw Zigfried for a filler arc in the final season of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, but I personally saw enough. I really think he was one of the strongest duelists that we saw in the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Show. He defeated Joey Wheeler, he defeated Weevil and Rex, which, no, that's not very impressive, but he took them both on at the same time and defeated them literally in one turn. I think the entire duel was 2 or 3 turns, but that is decently impressive. I know Weevil and Rex weren't the strongest of characters, but they put up good fights against Joey and Yugi on multiple occasions throughout the Duel Monsters anime, and seeing how quickly Zigfried defeated them and then went on to defeat Joey Wheeler, he put up a good fight against Seto Kaiba. He's a duelist that I feel like a lot of people would sleep on in their power rankings for this show, but I do believe he deserves to be on this list. Granted, I can't really put him higher because we really did only see him duel in a 6-episode period, so the sample size isn't enough, but it is enough for me to put him just on this list at the number 9 spot. Number 8, Yami Marek. So Yami Marek is really interesting. I had him ranked a lot higher when I first made this list, and then the more I looked into it, the more I felt like he wasn't maybe that good of a duelist in comparison to the characters that I've put ahead of him. Now, Yami Marek, definitely a very formidable duelist. The way that he defeated Mai, the way he defeated Yami Bakura, and then you look at the other duels he had. Joey Wheeler, I think everyone knows at this point that Joey should have beaten him if it was not a shadow duel. I really do feel like Yami Marek very much relies on the power of the Shadow Realm. Now, that being said, we are ranking these duelists with, all their abilities, but I genuinely do believe that the 7 duelists that I have ranked higher than him are better duelists than him. And Yami Marek, one of my favorite villains of all time in the entire Yu-Gi-Oh franchise, and I felt his true terror was what he was able to do outside of actually dueling, and so he does come on this list, but a pretty low position at number 8. Number 7, Joey Wheeler. So I think it's actually pretty hilarious that I have Joey one spot ranked ahead of Yami Marek. Again, I do believe that Joey, card for card, is a better duelist than Yami Marek. Even in that shadow duel, he had Yami Marek beat if he just called his attack. Joey's growth is one of the best character growths in Duel Monsters. It's one of the best character growths in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! I love Joey. He's one of my favorite characters of all time, and I genuinely do believe that by the end of the show, he was a really formidable duelist. Now, even though he does grow incredibly as a duelist, he's obviously not on the level as some of the characters that are ahead of him, but I do feel like he is a really strong duelist in the show, and he's one of the strongest duelists in the show that literally uses no outside advantage or no god card in order to be that strong, and that's where Joey's true strength lies. So I do have him here at number 7. Number 6, darts. So this is one that I feel like a lot of people will debate. I think there's a lot of people that will put him higher, and I think there's a good amount of people that might put him lower. I kind of have him in the middle of the pack, and it was really hard to rank darts because he only dueled on screen a single time against Yugi and Kaiba in what was an absolute slugfest of a duel, and so it's really hard to kind of rank darts on a power scale because his deck is just so crazily broken, but the only time we've seen him duel, he lost. So I feel like putting him in the middle is probably fair. He is a very, very strong duelist because of his, tactics and his cards in general. Divine Serpent God Gay with its infinite attack points. That being said, as a duelist, even though he has a really cracked out deck, I'm not really sure he's at top tier level, and so I feel pretty confident kind of putting him in the middle here, because again, the only duel we ever saw him compete in, he did lose. He did defeat Kaiba, but then he lost to Yugi. Darts is an interesting one. Interested to see where people would put him, if people feel I have him too low or too high, but I do have him at number 6. Number 5, Pegasus. Pegasus was another tricky one, and again, we are looking at him when he was at full strength, so forget about him losing to Mai in Season 4. We're looking at him when he took down Kaiba, when he gave Yugi all he could handle, when he was just this absolute force of a duelist. Having the Millennium Eye was obviously a huge advantage for him, since he could read his opponent's mind, and if it wasn't for Yugi and Yami Yugi being able to switch positions, who knows if the reign of Pegasus ever would have ended. I feel like as the creator of Duel Monsters, he is a super formidable duelist, and when you look at him at full strength, he took down incredibly skilled duelists like Seto Kaiba with no issue at all, really toyed with him in that duel, and his ability with the Millennium Eye combined with his knowledge of the game of Yu-Gi-Oh, since he is the creator, makes him an insanely powerful duelist, and I have him just kicking off our top 5 here at number 5. Number 4, Raphael. So this is one that I feel a lot of people might give me some pushback on. Dylan, how on earth are you putting Raphael ahead of darts, ahead of Pegasus, and all the way at number 4? Hear me out. I believe he is legitimately an insanely strong duelist. I think he is the strongest duelist to come out of any of the filler arcs. Really, all you need to look at is the fact that he beat Yugi clean. I know Yugi gave into the Seal of Orichalcos in that duel, but he beat Yami Yugi, and then he almost beat him again in the rematch, giving Yugi a run for his money on 2 different occasions, which is something that not a lot of duelists can say, and I genuinely believe if he went up against most of the duelists in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, he has a really good chance to win. I know putting him ahead of darts might be a little controversial. People probably might not agree with that, which is totally fair, but the fact of the matter is he beat Yugi one-on-one, he beat Mai, and I know it's a very small sample size, but those wins and the way he looked in those duels are so impressive to me that I do have Raphael all the way up as the 4th strongest duelist in the entire Yu-Gi-Oh! Show. Number 3, Yugi Moto. Yes, I am counting Yugi Moto and Yami Yugi as two separate duelists, and yes, I am ranking both of them in the top 3, kicking it off here with Little Yugi. I feel Little Yugi has a massive advantage because, number 1, he was able to kind of learn and watch Yugioh through the eyes of a Tem for so many different duels, and that, of course, gave him so much courage and knowledge to be a very good duelist. And then at the very end of Duel Monsters, we see everything he's learned as part of a Tem come to fruition. He defeats Yami Bakura on his own in a really, really good duel that basically saves Egypt and saves the world in that final season. And then he defeats a Tem. He defeats Yami Yugi, which allows Yami Yugi to pass on into the afterlife. Now, obviously, I do not have him ranked as a stronger duelist than Yami Yugi. I know that's kind of the point of the final duel, him surpassing a Tem, but I feel like if you had to pick one or the other, most people are picking Yami Yugi, myself included. But Little Yugi, at the end of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, I think is when he's at his strongest, is a super, super good and formidable duelist, and one of the best in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. Number 2, Seto Kaiba. I know a lot of people might be surprised that I have Kaiba ranked this highly. I know I say a lot of the times that he kind of chokes in big duels, which I feel like he does, but when I went through all the characters, I do feel like he is the foil to Yami Yugi, and he is the second best duelist in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. He has a win over Yami Yugi. I know he had to basically cheat to get it, but he's also gotten some really huge wins throughout the show, and it's pretty obvious to me that he is supposed to be the most powerful duelist in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! DM outside of the Pharaoh. And I feel like when I looked back and looked at all these characters and made the comparisons, I feel like the data kind of speaks for itself. I have Kaiba as the second strongest duelist in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Number 1 is obviously the Pharaoh, Yami Yugi. He is, I don't really have too much to say about this, he is the strongest duelist in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Outside of Raphael beating him clean, every other time that Yami Yugi lost, it was through cheating or through some means of deception that wasn't really in fair play. He was the character that always carried us to the finish line, whether it was against Noah Kaiba, whether it was against Darts, whether it was against Yami Marek. He was always the character that stepped up when the pressure was on him the most to get the big win, and he always came through in the clutch. And he is, even though he lost that final duel, the strongest duelist in all of Duel Monsters, and one of the strongest duelists in the entire Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise. I don't know if many people would put a different character here at number 1. I'd love to hear your reasoning down below. It's the obvious choice, but for me, Yami Yugi is the strongest duelist in all of the original Yu-Gi-Oh! And that wraps it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am so excited to hear your thoughts on my list and rankings and your own rankings down below in the comments. And please be sure to check out my channel for more Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime content. Suggest some more top 10 lists you'd like to see down below. And be on the lookout for my rankings for the other Yu-Gi-Oh! Shows as well. 3 quick honorable mentions. Noah Kaiba, he's probably number 11. I just left him off because not really enough of a sample size there. I know you can make the same case with Darts, but I feel like Darts was just more formidable in that duel. Yami Bakura, much like Yami Marek, I felt like his true fearsomeness was what he did outside of dueling, but he was a worse duelist than Yami Marek in my opinion. And Anzu, Taya Gardner, she went 3-0, but I just have in my notes LOL in all caps after that, so I'll let that speak for itself. Thank you all so much for watching. A special thank you to my Platinum tier patrons, Goosey Q and Panther J, and to my Diamond tier patrons, Jesse Wood, Latrell Smith, and Elaine, and to my Egyptian God tier patron, Pink Penguin. Be sure to check out my Patreon for additional channel perks. Thank you to everybody who is a patron or channel member. You guys help me out tremendously. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to check out my channel for more Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime content, and I hope you have an amazing day.
Why